Have you ever looked at one of those people who just seems to know everything and thought to yourself, how on earth do they do that? You know the type I'm talking about. They can fix a broken toaster, explain why the economy is weird right now, and then casually drop a fun fact about ancient Rome, all in the same afternoon. It's intimidating, right? We usually look at them and think they must have been born with a supercomputer for a brain, or maybe they just have better genetics than the rest of us. But honestly, that is not true. Being smart is not a magical superpower you are born with. It is actually a lot easier than you think, and if you stick around, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Let's be real for a minute about how we are taught to view intelligence. Since we were little kids, we've been sold this idea that there is only one path to getting smart. You have to go to school for 12 years, then you have to go to college for 4 years, and if you really want to be taken seriously, you go to grad school for another few years. The promise is that if you sit in a classroom for 2 decades, you will come out the other side as a genius. But we all know what actually happens. You graduate with a fancy piece of paper, a mountain of student loans, and you realize you have no idea how to actually do anything in the real world. You might be able to write a 10-page essay on literature, but you don't know how to file your taxes or fix a leak in your sink. It's frustrating because you did everything you were supposed to do, but you don't feel smart in the way that actually counts. When you and I say we want to be smart, we aren't talking about getting an A on a calculus test. We mean something else. We want to be useful. We want to have skills that people actually value, skills that can maybe make us some money. We want to be able to look at a problem and figure it out without having a panic attack. And let's be honest, there is a social part to this too. We want to be able to hold our own in a conversation. You want to be the person people listen to at a dinner party because you actually have something interesting to say, not the person nodding along pretending to understand what's going on. We want respect, but we don't want to be seen as a nerd or a show-off. The problem is, if you go online right now and search for how to get smarter, most of the advice is totally useless. It usually falls into 2 categories. First, you have the vague philosophical stuff. People will tell you to just open your mind or think differently. That sounds nice on a motivational poster, but what does it actually mean? It doesn't tell you what to do on a Tuesday afternoon. The second category is all those health hacks. You've seen these articles. They tell you to eat pounds of blueberries because they are brain food, drink black coffee, wake up at 4 a.m., and listen to classical music while you sleep. Look, taking care of your body is great. You should definitely sleep and eat well. But you can be the healthiest, most well-rested person in the world, and if you haven't actually put any new information into your brain, you aren't going to be smarter. You're just going to be a very healthy person who doesn't know anything. So, if we strip away the school system and the health fads, what is left? What can you actually do right now to get smarter? It sounds incredibly boring, and you have probably heard it before, but the secret really is reading. But wait, don't tune out, because I'm not talking about reading boring stuff you hate. It is about how you read and what you do with that information. There are basically 2 types of reading you need to care about. First, there is fiction. A lot of people think reading made-up stories is a waste of time, but that is a huge mistake. Fiction is like a simulator for your brain. It helps you read faster and it builds your vocabulary without you even realizing it. But more importantly, when you read a lot of dialogue, it tricks your brain into feeling like you are hanging out with people. It teaches you how to talk, how to tell a story, and how to understand different perspectives. It basically makes you a more interesting person to talk to. Then you have nonfiction, which is where you get the raw data. This is how you become that person who knows random, cool facts. For example, you could pick up a history book and suddenly you understand why the world looks the way it does. But here is the catch, and this is where most people mess up. They read a book, they learn a few facts, and then they become annoying about it. We all know that guy. You are at a party having a nice chat, and you say something like, "Isn't it crazy we evolved from chimps?" And then this guy pushes up his glasses and says, "Well, actually, evolution is non-linear, and we shared a common ancestor. We didn't come from chimps." Technically, he is right, but socially, he just lost. Nobody likes the "well, actually" guy. It makes people feel dumb, and if you make people feel dumb, they won't think you are smart. They will just think you are a jerk. The trick to being socially smart is to take what you learned and share it in a way that includes people. Instead of correcting them, you change your tone. You say something like, "You know, I used to think that too, but I was reading this book the other day and it said something super interesting about how we actually evolved side by side." When you say it like that, like you are sharing a cool secret rather than correcting a mistake, people love it. They learn something, you look smart, and everyone walks away happy. Now, you might be thinking, books are expensive, and I don't know what to read. That is the easiest part. You don't need to read the fancy classics everyone talks about. Just think of a topic you are curious about right now. Maybe it's gardening, or how engines work, or history. Go to Google and search for best books on that topic. Find a title that looks cool. And hey, usually books cost money, but if you happen to be on the internet and you happen to type the name of the book followed by the letters PDF, you might accidentally stumble upon a file. I am not telling you to do that, of course. I'm just saying that accidentally clicking on links happens to the best of us. The point is, access to information is limitless right now. You can learn anything you want. But here is the thing. Just reading the book isn't enough. You can read every book in the library, but if you don't use that information, your brain is just going to dump it. Think about learning a skill, like tying a tie. You can watch a YouTube video on how to tie a tie 100 times. You can memorize the steps perfectly. But the first time you actually stand in front of a mirror with a tie in your hands, you are going to mess it up. That is because there is a massive difference between knowing how to do something and actually doing it. This is what we call the learning curve. The cool thing is, you don't need to be an expert to be good at something. You usually only need to learn about 20% of the material to get 80% of the results. But you have to practice. Your brain needs to know that this information is useful. So if you read a chapter about organizing your house, put the book down and go organize one drawer. If you read about cooking, go into the kitchen and chop an onion. You have to close the loop. But what if you can't practice right now? What if you are reading about how to jumpstart a car, but your car is working fine and you don't have jumper cables? This is where you can use a little brain hack called visualization. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but it works. Your brain is actually pretty bad at telling the difference between something you are vividly imagining and something that is actually happening. So if you read that diagram about the car battery, take a second. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself popping the hood. Imagine the smell of the engine. Visualize exactly where you would put the red clamp and the black clamp. Play the whole movie in your head. By doing this, you are tricking your brain into thinking you've done it, and it will lock that information in way better than if you just stared at the page. This is basically how school works if you think about it. The reason we cram for tests is because there are stakes. We are scared of failing. Your brain goes into survival mode and holds on to that information because it thinks it needs it to survive the exam. As soon as the exam is over, the threat is gone, and you forget everything. To get smart in real life, you need to create your own fake stakes. When you are learning something, pretend you are in a movie scene. Imagine you are hanging off a cliff, and the only way to save yourself is to explain the plot of the book you just read. Imagine you are in a high-pressure meeting, and you have to explain this concept to save the company. It sounds silly, but adding that little bit of emotional pressure forces your brain to take it seriously. And finally, if you really want to fast-track this whole getting smart thing, I have one last recommendation that you are probably going to hate. Textbooks. I know, textbooks are boring. They are dry, heavy, and remind us of homework. But that is exactly why they are the best tool you have. A textbook is pure information. It doesn't care about entertaining you. It just gives you the facts in a straight line. The best part about textbooks is the practice questions at the end of the chapter. Most people skip them because they are hard, but that is where the magic happens. Those questions are the simulation. They force you to dig into your brain and pull the information out. If you can answer those questions, you actually know the stuff. If you can't, then you know you need to go back and read it again. It's not as fun as watching a 10-minute video essay on YouTube, but it is way more effective if you actually want to learn. So, here is the bottom line. Becoming smart is easy, but you have to be willing to do the stuff that other people aren't doing. You have to read, but you have to read with a purpose. You have to be humble about what you know so people actually want to listen to you. And most importantly, you have to use what you learn, whether that's by actually doing it or by playing movies in your head until it sticks. The barrier to entry isn't your genetics, and it isn't how much money you have. It's just about whether you are willing to sit down, focus, and trick your brain into thinking this stuff matters. So go pick a topic, find a book, and start getting smarter today. You've got this.